allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second by Jenny. Any discussion or additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the board will consider approval of the minutes from the last two boards.
Received 0.4% of our revenues, and we've expended 3.5% of our revenues. So pretty typical for July. The revenues will start coming in hopefully soon. So right now the budget looks a little scary, but after 1 month, that's kind of where we are.
Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to communications. For our public comments, is there any public comment tonight? Okay, with no comments noted, we'll go ahead and move on to our discussion items. First item is our first reading of policy EEBE-GBCB, alcohol and controlled substances testing policy. That's a tongue twister.
Yes, it is. A lot of those policies are. Madam Chair, members of the board, if you recall, my computer's gone dead. If you recall, we began discussions on policy EEBE in January of last year. We went through several different readings. We decided to pull it. What you see before you now is actually all of the suggestions that have been received from Jeff and Jamie. George and I sat down and went through it again. If you remember, the original reason why we went back through this is because we had situations where an individual received a DUI, not on the job, but there was nothing in policy that allowed us to even suspend them while that was adjudicated. So that's involved in all this now. Actually, Jeff and George and I met this week. We feel the policy is much better than it was. The first thing you see there is the definitions. And the definitions include what a safety-sensitive function and a safety-sensitive position is. So we took out some of the other language later in the policy that talked about non-DOT testing, which I really think made it a lot more streamlined. I don't know if you want me to go through all of this. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. A couple of the things that, just to point out, is we left a lot of the percentages where DOT puts them. Originally, I changed this to 0.01 toward the end of our trying to go through this last year, but talking to those who know is there are false positives with alcohol, and we want to make sure that we are responsible to our students and our staff, but at the same time we're not adversely affecting someone that has a false positive. So that is involved in this policy. There's multiple testing if that's the situation, we believe. 0.02 is a very extremely small percentage of alcohol in your blood system. So we feel comfortable with 0.02. Like I said, most of the policy changes you see, I want to get down to probably this is the biggest. This deals with random employee testing. We changed the wording based on Jeff and Jamie's recommendation. This is another thing we wanted to get to, is that our drug tests are purely random. They're random during the year and they're random during the day. So we think we finally got the language where we're legal and it makes sense. So it's really that last part in red and blue that you see. Alcohol and drug tests shall be conducted on a random basis at unannounced times throughout the year. The dates of administering random alcohol and drug tests conducted under this section will be spread reasonably throughout the calendar year. Random tests shall be conducted at unannounced times throughout the workday. So again, it's much better language. We did not change the percentage because that is the Department of Transportation percentages, and that's minimum expectations. We can go beyond that, and that's kind of the plan. I also removed the language that we felt was potentially biased. In the event of an employee is unavailable for testing on an assigned day, he or she will be tested the next drug testing date, which makes it non-random. So that was removed. It still will remain random. Let's see what else is in here is important. Probably the best change that I see is right at the end, and I think there's something else before that. But enforcement, this is where we've added, I believe it's E. This is the part that does get a little tricky, but this allows us, if we have an employee that has a CDL or is in a safety-sensitive position or function, and they have a criminal offense, the employee can be removed from his or her assignment duties and may be subject to disciplinary action. In the event that the employee is no longer able to perform the essential functions of their job as a result of these charges, even if prior to conviction, the employee may face disciplinary action, which could include reassignment or suspension, termination, or dismissal as a result of the conduct. What I like is the next sentence. A serious offense under this section includes, but is not limited to, drugs, alcohol, felonies, and leaving the scene of an accident, reckless driving. So it gives us actually more opportunities or flexibilities than we had in the previous policy. And then if the offense is adjudicated in the employee's favor, they can be reinstated if they are able to be carried on our insurance, which we wanted to get to. And that language is much better than it was. And then at the end, this is all added, and I think it's something that we needed. This basically deals with the ADA requirement of a pre-existing condition when it's notified by the employer, by the employee to the employer. It actually protects our employees and protects the district. I think it's well written, and it provides protection that we didn't have in there about ADA. I could read it if you want me to, but I think, like I said, the policy is much better than it was. Our recommendation is you approve this at first reading. You can get a chance to look at it until next month, and where we hopefully approve it for final reading. Any questions or comments? Jeff and George, you guys have anything you want to add?
The only thing is it's a discussion.
Yeah.
So
This is an action.
It's not an action
it's not
item.
an action item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for incorporating some of my suggested changes. I appreciate that. I think that, just so the board knows, one of the things I was having difficulty with is treating all employees like CDL drivers, and having the same standards, and they're different standards. So now we have the sort of different separations, plus we also have this ADA provision that says if you truly have a problem and you self-disclose ahead of time, then we can't hammer you for it. So I think it looks like they've incorporated everything that they needed to. So thank you guys very much. I like it a lot better. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'll make a motion to approve on first reading.
It's good.
I'll second the motion.
The only thing is only a discussion
Oh,
item,
that's
so we would have to change the agenda,
Is this
so.
will this go in action this year?
Yes. What it looks like what we have to do anyway is the next work session, which is the first Tuesday in September, will have to be a special session so we can take action on some personnel items anyway. So we'll just add it first reading, then a week later we can have second reading, and still we're on pretty good track.
Jeff, did you have anything?
No, I looked around at a lot of different policies that were similar across Wyoming. I think that ours is by far the most comprehensive. I couldn't find anything in Utah that was quite as comprehensive either, so I think we probably have the best drug and alcohol policy around. And a lot of that credit goes to George and Ryan. They did an excellent job of working on this and putting this together. George had some excellent ideas that he'd gathered through his years of experience, and also Jamie's contributions, and the end result is a very good policy.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything that we need to cover on this? Okay, then we'll move it to the work session for.
Okay, great.
next.
Thank you.
Is that it for that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and move on to our facility use fees policy change.
We've had this policy in place, I believe, since probably 2006, 2007. And with this is the actual policy, the regulation. There's also a fee schedule that goes with it. So this is actually the beginning of us reworking the fee schedule. We've talked about some of the concerns that we have. Probably the biggest concern that we have is the use of our facilities, to the point where we're going to wear them out. Also, the use of our employees. These extra times really put a burden on our custodial staff, our maintenance staff, and I'd say the facilities is the biggest thing. The challenge that I see with this is supporting the community. I think we want to continue to support the community, but at the same time, with our financial constraints, we cannot continue to support or co-support these other activities, and that's what we've done. So as I went through the policy, I do believe the policy is very good. I think there's a few things. What's in red are some of the suggestions that I've made. The big thing about organizations is they do have the ability to bring in liability insurance, and they can provide us their carrier. We don't really want them to provide a waiver if they're large, because we still assume the liability. So this adds a little different responsibility to individuals. This is really what we need to get to. And I'm still pretty nervous about allowing a waiver to a liability. I think they need to cover it. Because if something happens at that event, they always go to the deepest pockets. They'll come back to us. And even if they sign a sheet saying that we're not liable for, we still probably are. So that probably goes without saying. So that's really kind of the challenge with this, is how do we balance really our desire to support community events, because typically what we support now are events for our students. After hours, they're quality events, but they are expensive. What I wanted to do with this policy is find a way to do actual expenses. Actual cost, excuse me. There's no way to do that, because one of the greatest costs, as I said before, is wear and tear on our facility. We do maintain our facilities at a high level. We do charge if there is damage in these events, but sometimes that's very hard for us to do. For example, we had a rim torn off a backboard. There was no way for us to determine when the rim was torn off, so we ended up replacing it at our cost, when we're pretty sure that the fifth graders weren't tearing off 10-foot baskets. But anyway, that was some of the predicament we get into. So if they are, we need to continue supporting that kind. The blue are areas that I believe we need to clean up and change. I wanted to work with our facility guys a little more before we changed it. The reason for cleanup is we can't have individuals in these activities being responsible to clean the restrooms. They don't have the equipment. They don't have probably the knowledge. We'd probably get into more issues with liability if someone was burned using chemicals. So that needs to be changed. We actually charge to clean after the use of our facilities, so that would come out. Opening and closing, that's another issue. That's really the big cost on a Saturday, is we don't have anyone there on Saturday, so we have to pay someone overtime to open and close these facilities, and then they have to stay on site. Biggest concern is if you have a fire, water line breaks, there's an alarm, someone has to be there to supervise the building. And right now our custodians are willing to do that, but it is a huge cost. So those two need to be reworked. And probably the most controversial of all this is the fees. The only other thing I would say is, in this policy, we do allow our technical areas to be rented or used. In other words, our wood shop, our welding shop, our auto shop, we haven't had too many requests. Really, the only ones that we allow to use those facilities are BOCES. Because of the equipment involved in that and the danger involved in that, I think that needs to be removed. It needs to be added to the list of things that we don't sublease. Right now, I think the list of what we sublease is right here. Let's see, facilities exempt from public use include the warehouse, transportation, maintenance shop, storage units, and educational service center offices. I think we need to add those facilities. But what I worry about, if we add those, does that mean we cut BOCES out of using our facilities?
You can have a memorandum of understanding between you and BOCES that allows for that use.
And we don't charge BOCES for that use. So, and they do use our computer labs. They have used our science labs. We've been able to support them, and I think we'd like to continue that, but we just don't want to write them out on this policy. So, and we do always sign an MOU. We already have an MOU since we are the BOCES. So, okay. So just again, I've been the one responsible for assigning facility fees since 2005, so I have a pretty good idea. We definitely undercharged, and even this, since I've put this together, I've already gone back and reworked it. What's happened is individuals have discovered they can go in for an hourly rate instead of the daily rate, and they'll end up staying more than the 3 hours for the hourly rate, and what can we do? We can't kick them out. I guess we could go back and charge them, but our hourly rate was way too low. So if you look at the rates now, custodial fees, $40 an hour. I've actually changed that to $50 an hour. I didn't update this. Kitchen, that includes one supervisor. So that's the kitchen, all the facility, and one of our employees for an hour. It was 35. So I don't know if it's enough, and that's probably a discussion I have to have with our food service director, because that's one of the areas of wear and tear. And our level of cleaning is much different than most people's level of cleaning. It has to be. Classrooms, we're $25. We doubled them at $50. And part of the reason why is if they use a classroom, we have to clean it. And so that's where the cost comes in. Also, classrooms, especially during the school year, they're really the office of that teacher. And it is a little unnerving to have someone go through your desk. Doesn't always happen. Yeah. Usually what it is, if they use Davis, they use the band room and the choir room. If they use the high school and it's a large event, Matt Camp uses all of the high school. The women's conference, they use a large number. I think it was 7 or 8 last time, plus the commons area. Might as well be the whole school.
See, I'm of the opinion that you make all of your classrooms the same hourly rate.
And they are.
Well, you got classrooms up there at 50, whereas you've got art rooms and other areas that are 100. I would, yeah.
And I think what we need to do is, like I said, is take those rooms off. Any of the shop.
Oh, yeah.
Technical support. Sorry about the mic. It was much lower than that, $35 an hour. That is on top of a custodian too. So we have to find someone that can run the sound and light board. And I personally would rather have our guys doing it, because we've had serious damage to our sounds and light board by having someone who knows nothing about it run those boards. And they're big dollars. So, for example, we had, the last time it was used for a large concert at the high school, the soundboard was reprogrammed, and it had already been programmed for one of our plays. And it took quite a while for the individual who runs the soundboard to figure out what was done. So quite a bit of downtime. So if you ask those individuals, they're going to say, let them use the auditorium, but not the sound and lights, which they could do in the dark, I guess. But so anyway, that may be something we look at, is if you're going to use the high school auditorium, you have to pay for the tech. And if you look at further down, the flat rate charges, so the daily fees, the classroom, you can see the difference. So that's over 3 hours, we charge a daily rate. Pretty good, still pretty good price. I think that's the elementary. They're a little more. The auditorium at the high school, for that facility, $500 a day is unheard of. And the wear and tear on that facility is really what I'm really concerned about more than anything else. We do have some small groups that come in, the dance groups more than anything else. And they want the high school because it gives them ample room. Where Davis is still a large facility now, EMS is a beautiful facility, much less if we use those facilities. But again, Davis and EMS are very, very nice facilities, and according to the fee schedule of the School Facilities Commission, we will not be looking at a new middle school for the next 50 years. So it has to last 50 years.
So Ryan, I know it's really, one of the things that I worry about is when we impose fees for the use, and I absolutely think the fees need to go up. There's no question that we are not charging enough. But for me, I feel like it should be based upon, to the best that we can, actual numbers. So for example, it's really easy to say, hey, our technical support is X because we know that this is how much money they make plus benefits plus expertise or whatever, and we can do that. In terms of wear and tear on the facilities, I think you probably can take your annual maintenance budget, divide it by square feet, and charge a per square foot kind of fee, or calculate that in. And what I'm concerned about, and so I'm hoping that you guys will do that, and I think we're probably going to be close to these, if not more than this, quite frankly, if you do that. Because I don't want anybody coming back at us and saying, aha, this is really an extra tax, and you haven't done, truth in taxation, and this doesn't really reflect the actual costs. And so I just want to make sure you guys are covered by some true numbers before we adopt it.
And that's kind of why I mentioned that I've been doing this for a while.
Right.
Is I hope these are based on true numbers, especially the personnel costs. At $35 an hour, we don't have anyone that's making $35 an hour, but we're paying time and a half, and we're also paying some significant benefits. The other thing we run into, especially with why there's a difference between the custodian and the individual running the light and sound board. Well, we have 38 custodians. We have 2 individuals that can run the sound and light board. And so if they're not available, or they have something else planned for that, it takes some kind of incentive to get them to do that. We're asking a lot, I guess, is what we're saying. So, and that's our plan. I just spoke to Pat and John, and we'll go through this, and Director Williams, and we'll come up with, we can show how it represents actual costs, and we'll adjust according to that. I just wanted tonight to show you that my best shot is this is close to actual cost, and they're drastically increased.
My other question, oh, sorry, Kim.
I think what Jamie was getting at, though, are the hourly things that you have above there and getting close to those. Because that's what I was thinking when I was looking at where you have like $75 for an hour for the technical support and whatnot. Well, I think that that's probably more than that when you're considering what you're paying per hour for these technical supports. So if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of
That's what I'm saying, is let's look at what, the overall compensation package is, and then do it.
And we'll
on
show you that
Yeah.
when we do first reading.
The only other question I had was on the minimum deposit of $50. I actually think that should be higher for a minimum deposit. I mean, the city even asked for $100 to rent, their parks.
So what they include in those deposits are their cleaning fees.
Right.
Yeah.
So a minimum deposit, I think, should be more than $50.
When that was done in 2001, all that was figured out.
Yeah.
Just add 90% inflation, or whatever it's.
Yeah. And really, what happens is, and it's in the policy, and that's what I like about it, is someone will come in and say, I want the facility for July 18th, 2019. Well, we can't do that because we have priority in terms of our own functions, so we ask 6 months out. So the $50 was really an application fee, and we try to reimburse that back. It makes more sense as we change this, as that's just part of your fee. That's your first $100 or whatever. So we'll look at that too. I think it's a very good suggestion. What we haven't done well is the bottom one on those hourlies is snow removal. If they use our facility on Saturday, we don't plow our facility on Saturday. So we have to send a crew to plow that, to open it up, and to keep it open. And that can be very costly, and it's something we just have to keep our eye on. Even salt on the sidewalks. Our maintenance guys have to go to do that above and beyond their normal duties when there's a large event at our facility, so.
Well, and then you have to take into consideration, we live in an area where that happens.
Yes, frequently, in July. So the other part, the only other thing I'll throw out to think about is exempt. School activities linked to approved activities, concerts, assemblies, practices, meeting, camps held during the school day and school year. So anything that the school puts on, we don't charge any fees, of course. They do fill out the facility use request. Now we have an online system, so I think it'll be much better. And even then, I put no charge, whatever, but gets a chance to at least coordinate that, and then our switchboard sends it out to all those involved. The rec center approved activities, a fees assessed but waived. I think it was,
Typo.
oh, I didn't spell
Typo.
this, thank goodness.
And the last one, it says the fee assessed by waived.
Well, that's why we do this. I'll find out who typed this and we'll put them through. So we do wave at them, but, so the rec center, we do, at least, the reason why we did that is to keep track, so we could keep track of how much. I don't think we'd ever get to the point where saying we're not getting our bang for our buck with the rec center, because again, typically these are activities for our students and many times for our students' parents, and we want them in the schools. So then the BOCES, of course, we don't require that, and their fees assessed, but we've waived them too. The other thing we've typically waived is DARE, and
For the concert.
yes, and again, we've been good with that. I haven't brought those to the board. I just don't know if you guys want to get involved at that level. I guess if,
We have to be a good neighbor, in my opinion, no matter what. And
Yeah.
we are neighbors with the city, and we are neighbors with BOCES.
But I think that's part of your discretion.
We are neighbors with Evanston Parks and Rec.
and I guess my point would be anyone that, if we denied waiving a fee, we could say you could go to the board and the board has final authority. But I don't think you want to get involved in the several hundred.
No, no.
No, that's why we pay you the big bucks.
Okay.
I don't want to get down in the minutia. I think the policy is on the right track, and it's up to you to sort of execute it. To the extent that somebody disagrees with you, I suppose they can come to us, but,
When we put this together a number of years ago, it's actually a committee that really works together. It's the activities director and the director of facilities. And so, and myself. And typically by that point, I've already assessed the fees. We haven't had a committee meeting for a while because of the sheer number of facility use requests we have. So I've done it.
I think what for me is important for the public to know is that we're not doing this as a fundraiser. We're doing this to actually pay our costs. And it hasn't been done for a long time. We've been subsidizing for a long time, and we just can't afford to do that anymore.
The other part about having a facility use requirement is this idea of it's not an open campus. We can deny access if they don't fit the requirements within this policy, and that's very important that we have the ability to do that. So it's a limited open campus. So that's all I had with that, just a discussion. Any additional feedback I'd love to get?
Well, Ryan, as a board, I don't think we've had anybody in the public really pushing back on this. I haven't had anybody complain and for years, so what you're doing, continue on, it's working.
Yes, that's where we've had pushback.
Traveling
Traveling
basketball teams will have
teams.
pushback on that.
We've had that before.
And hopefully, if a new facility in our community gets moving forward, we can solve that problem too.
Right.
You know, but even just with the junior jazz programs in some of the elementary schools, we've had problems with the kids being unsupervised and
Yes.
causing problems in the restrooms, so,
Right.
you know, it's not just,
About every 3 years, we get broken back from those open pools.
And it is, when the facility's open, we have to have restrooms. And the frustrating thing, I guess, for our custodians is, and they know the nights now because we put all this in the facility use request, what nights will be used until 10. They're usually off around 10 or 11, and they'll clean those areas last. And I can tell you, our maintenance and our custodial department take great pride in our facilities, and you guys know that if you just walk in our facilities at any time, so. So I will bring this probably to the work session for first reading, and in the meantime, we'll work with our, the Brain Trust in terms of finding a more actual cost basis.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the summer projects.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is kind of an open mic opportunity. If you have questions, just a quick kind of where we are. If you've driven by Evanston Middle School, they're making really good progress. My guess is they'll start laying sod soon. Really, it's the back area that's left, and that will be grass too, so they have to remove some dirt. There are berms back there, so the dirt that you see will be part of the berms. Really pleased with our asphalt, really pleased with the concrete, really pleased with the individuals that are doing the landscaping. They're really good at it, and they get people there. Also on the roof, if you take a peek, you can see the work that's being done to hopefully tighten up that facility in terms of a leaky roof. As I've been up there, I'm also very impressed with their the quality of their work, and they have a couple craftsmen in that group, and I think it's gonna work well. There's only a couple spots that wasn't in their scope of work that we may have to work on in the future, and that was physical issues with the facility that wasn't designed appropriately when VP designed the roof. So we may still have a couple issues, but overall, I think this is going to take care of it. It's funny because what we asked originally is a riglet cut into the roof. This is all worked into a riglet, so it actually becomes part of the high roof, the walls, and then access to as the water runs off the high roof, it was allowed to drain right on the molding. Well, now it's moved away from that. Everything's at a 45-degree angle. They've capped our expansion joints, which we asked them to do originally, and like I said, it's been pretty good work. If you've driven by the high school, we're in the process of not fully redoing that Red Devil Drive, but if you go up there, enter from the south side, you can actually see the pavement that they'll cut out and replace. They'll work on the north side first, hopefully, and get that finished for registration and our sports, so they can use the jock lot area. If you've been by Uinta Meadows, that roof's coming along. I saw them flashing just a few minutes ago, so they're a little beyond their due date, but again, pretty good quality work. Anything else I've missed? All the other, come on up, Pat, John.
Well, one thing with the Uinta Meadows roof, the reason they're a little behind is we had instructed them that as they tear off the old roof and they find damaged or water damaged decking, that they replace that. And they have replaced over 70 sheets of plywood, so that took time. First to open it up to discover it, and then to do the repair, and then continue on. So that's to our benefit, even though it's taking more time. It's to our benefit to have a good sound deck to put all the material on. So that is one of the reasons that they're behind. They're expecting to be done by Saturday this week. So that's a plus.
That's
but,
good.
You know, we did have a little rain today. We had a little rain yesterday. And, you know, when you see the white surface, that's actually a plastic coating over some what's called ice and water shield membrane. That's pretty slippery when it's wet. So I was kind of surprised that they did get back on the roof this afternoon and did quite a bit of roofing on the playground side. So they are moving along.
Thank you.
And we will be doing a great deal of work on the parking lot at the bus barn. It's a mess. And we still have some outside, the outside of the bus barns has work to do too. So other than that, hopefully you've seen the lawn and grounds crew. Our lawns look great. There's a painting crew that's active, and they've really been moving forward. Go ahead.
And this week they just started on elevator repair.
Oh, yeah.
Basically an elevator upgrade for this building, which unfortunately does put that out of service for a couple of weeks. In conjunction with that, we are upgrading the entire fire alarm system for this building. And partly because the requirements of what they have to have for smoke detectors and so on in the elevator shaft basically required us to update our panel. And so we had a company design a whole fire alarm system for this building, worked with our local fire marshal, Tim Overy, and it was reviewed by the state fire marshal and approved last week. So we're moving forward with that. But we expecting that it would be about the 24th or 5th of this month that everything will wrap up for this bill.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody have anything else? You guys have any questions, comments about?
All of these to be wrapped up before you retire, right, Pat?
Ryan made that abundantly clear.
We know where you live.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item D, which is strategic plan board goals.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I didn't realize I was going to be up here talking the whole time, so I apologize. As I promised at our retreat last week, I'd present the first draft of our strategic plan. Let me start by saying what it does not include. One of the things it does not include is board goals. I think you guys were pretty well spent, so we didn't spend time last week talking about board goals. The board has always had some goals that are linked to their responsibility as board members. The board goals for last year, and we did kind of report back how you did as a board. If I can find them. Board of Trustees, continue implementation of the revised district communication plan. Communication was a big focus of the board. Improve board participation and professional development. Revise district's vision, mission, and core value statement. The new strategic plan does represent a new vision and a mission statement that was worked on by the entire staff at the opening last year. I think your first chance to see it was last week, but really like what the staff has decided on. I don't know if you've seen our new logo. Has anyone got? Yes.
We saw the choices last year, but we didn't know which one everybody liked.
This is a small version, but that's what it looks like. It actually stands out when it's stands out nice. And again, what you see is the progression of elementary, middle, and high school, with the E at the top representing excellence. Edison High School.
That was one of hers?
Yes. Yep. And that was the one that was the #1 selection by the staff too. So no one liked the one I really pushed. So I don't know what that tells you, but hopefully you see if you get a chance to go through the strategic plan. It is structured very similar, but it's also, I think, hopefully you see it's much different. We put the goals at the beginning. One of the challenges, and I think we talked about it last week, is the district has always had goals, and it drives the work that we do. At the end of the year, we had an opportunity. I sat with 35, 40 of our best teachers, and during a down moment, I just asked them, "Did any of you guys know what our district goals are?" And they didn't. And so I don't know what that tells you. On top of the district goals, we also have, every building has a building goals. And that's what they focus on, and that's what they know. This idea of bottom up as compared to top down, the goals hopefully reflect that you see, right now there of the 5 goals, 6 goals, really 2 of them I think are top down goals. The first one you see is district goal by 2022, all Uintah County School District #1 schools will be certified as high reliability schools. We mentioned that last week. What's important about the high reliability schools work that we're doing is this is not additional work. Really what this does, and you can see it down at the bottom, the important part with this is the HRS framework does not replace current initiatives, approved curriculum, and effective practices. Instead, this framework shows how best practices work together and provides indicators to empower districts and schools to measure their progress on attaining increasing levels of reliability. So you can move down, and there are 5 levels to high reliability schools, and we're focusing on the first 3. Safe and collaborative culture, effective teaching in every classroom, guaranteeing a viable curriculum. That is really what we've been working on for at least the last 12 years. Safe and collaborative in culture, it really focuses on our communication efforts with our patrons, with each other, and with our staff. And really what you have is, as it mentioned in kind of sophisticated You have indicators of what this talks about when we talk about safe and collaborative cultures, and there are ways to measure it. This is not a huge consulting fee, but as we move forward with this, the expectation that all of our schools are considered high reliability schools, I think is a top-down goal that is very important that our principals, our staff understand that this will be a commitment. But it's not a commitment to a new program, new curriculum. It's moving forward with the stuff we've done. It'll allow us to evaluate what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, what we need to drop, and what we can add. So I think it's probably more than anything else, it's a clear direction based on the best research in education. This work, of course, is the Marzano Institute, takes in all that research that's these mega analyses from Hattie to Schmoker and it's all stuff that we've seen for years and years and years. Now we have an opportunity to assess that and see where we are and what we need to get better.
How is this measured?
Mostly through surveys. If you certify as a staff, it's not us. It's an outside agency that can do that. They'll actually come on site. It's a lot like Advanced Ed. They'll come on site. They'll interview your patrons. They'll interview your staff. The surveys allow us, hopefully in the next 5 years, to see the direction of things we need to work on. The surveys are the surveys for level 1 just focus on those 8 indicators, and they ask those questions. So there are surveys for our staff, and there's also surveys for parents. There's also surveys for community members. So we'll learn a lot more about that on the 17th and 18th. It's when I invited you guys to be a part of that. That's when probably one of the, and I guess I say bigwigs, but one of the bigwigs from the Marzano Institute will come train our administrators on what high reliability schools are. We're just learning a little bit about ourselves, but how this works, options that we can choose in terms of how we certify our schools. Schools are actually certified and identified as high reliability schools. The first 3 levels are, like I said, pretty straightforward. Level 4 and level 5 are much more complicated, higher level changes, and but they're all mostly based on collaboration.
So Ryan, just so I clarify, because I know when we were discussing this, it was still kind of up in the air of how far we wanted to take
Yes.
that. So, I know this is just a discussion item, but, by adopting this as we will be certified, we don't even know if we want to go that far yet. Is that my understanding? Or I just want to.
I think the part we don't know what we want to do is how much involved we want an outside organization to be involved with us in terms of costs. In terms of indicators and philosophies, this is the latest and greatest best practices research. I think more than anything else, it is a commitment K-12 to excellence. All the things that people have been worried about over the years are within these indicators, and allow us to work on, like I said, the things that have been important to us for the last 12 years, the last 3 years, without throwing things out and adding new things. It's just how we assess our own performance, really. If after the 17th and 18th this is not what we want, we'll change that number 1 goal. But hopefully if you get a chance, we can report back when we do approve this, that it is something we want to do.
Okay.
Goal 2, more than anything else, is expectation. Where's that at? Okay. Goal 2 is the expectation on the state accountability system that all of our schools meet or exceed the accountability standards. And notice it's by 2018. You'll get a report. We haven't received those back, but you'll get a report probably in September of how we did in terms of the accountability standards. If that's the expectation of our state, it has to be the expectation of our district that we are accountable and we are performing at a high level. So meet or exceeds. I'm hoping that as we transition, this goal will have to change too, because we already will have the scores by the next time this is approved, hopefully. I think the accountability scores will be in. Remember, this is one where you see the reds and the yellows and the greens. So, but I think that's an expectation. K-12 is that we are performing at a high level based on our own state standards.
Do these, okay, so these goals, I'm sorry if you already explained this, because I wasn't here. These goals, do they have like, so they're gonna be assessed basically through survey? Do they have like prescribed like interventions for these different numbers here? So say a teacher wants to like work on this one and this one, could they go and say, well, these are the things that I need to implement?
That's one thing nice about the levels 1, 2, and 3. Each of them have indicators, and as a system, we'll identify those are the leading indicators. What we'll identify as lagging indicators. In other words, if we can achieve indicator 1, what will that look like? And those will be clearly identified. It allows us, especially since we're doing this over a 5-year period, if we worked on all 8 indicators of all 3 levels, it just can't be done. We can focus on the areas that by these surveys are identified that we have weakness. And that's, I think, the strength in it. So we don't have to work on all 8 indicators of level 1 at first. We assess, we find out where we're weak, and then we build on that, where we are. So what I think for me more than anything else is it gives us a real purpose to ask our community, ask our staff where we are, what we're doing, and then we can come up with a solution to solve those things in terms of a survey that is from someone else that doesn't really deal with what we do in our community. So it's more, I guess, more focused on what we do and how we do it. Actually, the surveys, they do get a little monotonous because they ask the same question several different ways because you have to get to where we're doing well and where we're not doing well. Typical surveys, but again, well-researched and available to us, so. Sorry, go ahead.
I just had one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Should we clarify a specific, like, timeframe in 2008 on this accountability goal?
And
Fall, spring, winter?
yeah, what we need to do is,
2018,
this is the
2008,
goal
that's
from
a while
last
ago.
year. So this was our last year's goal, that by 2018, we are going to be accountable, or we're going to meet or exceed in all the categories in the accountability system. So we need to maybe define it a little clearer. Are we talking about the 2017 results? Well, we really have one more year to get everyone, but we can't add more to it till we find out how we did in 2017. Because those tests are already taken, we're just waiting for the results. So we'll know more how to even, I guess, clarify that goal, hopefully in the next month.
Okay, I just think that would be good to
Yeah.
clarify, just because
It's very nebulous.
it's, my idea is January 1st, 2018 for 2018.
And we're hoping with the Y top, the assessments will come back faster.
Okay.
AKA pause.
Yes.
Yes.
Pause will be gone now. Pause is gone now. Yeah. So just quickly, the other goals that you see, the achievement, instruction, attendance, and behavior, these are under construction. We are developing these collaboratively with our administrative team. We do believe we have to have an achievement goal, but an achievement goal doesn't need to be from the district down. It needs to be, the buildings need to agree what our achievement goal is. If you notice, what we're really talking about is we want to provide instructional practices that will result in high Y-top scores. That may not be what we settle on. That was just, I needed to fill in the blank. So we're working on that this week and probably next week with our administrators. Same thing with instruction. I'm really excited about our new teacher evaluation system. Our teachers have been involved from the get-go. We've identified 10 of, I guess, the top 10 standards, instructional standards. The teachers did that. The evaluation is based on those top 10. It allows the principals to focus on strategies that the teachers believe we need to have work on. So I'm really excited about that. The structure of how the 2 assistant superintendents will support the principals in evaluating teachers, I think is, I saw it today, the principals are pretty pleased. So I'm excited about that. Needs some more work, and we'll work on that instructional goal too. That's more of a, what I'd like to see is these are building goals. So they're not reflective of what the district says you need to do, and then the building says, well, we're here, we need to do this. We need to have a combination of all. If you look at our PAWS scores, some of our buildings are ahead of others. So you don't want to have a district goal that, basically our district goal before was, what, 5% on the PAWS until we reach 90% by, well, we need to be more specific in that, so that's what we're working on. The attendance goal, as I reported, we had a 4.3% decrease in number of individuals who missed 10 absences. We just need to keep focusing on attendance. We do have an expert coming in to meet with our entire staff and work with buildings in terms of some other initiatives that they can do to help attendance. And then the behavior, you guys, I know, understand that regardless of how quality your school is, how quality your teachers are, if the students don't behave, they're not going to learn as much as they can. So behavior is also an important part. If you look at achievement, instruction, attendance, and behavior, those are goals that focus on really student learning and what it takes to, it's not all about instruction, it's about their attendance and the behavior, and those are important goals to have. So still some work on this, but like I said, this is more your first shot at that. What I haven't included, and I would kind of like your feedback, in the past, the strategic plan included all of the goals that have been identified by our departments. And what it does is it makes this document quite large. It can easily be done. They've already reported to you their performance and their goals for the coming year. And we have those. We just need to include them if you would like to see them. That also includes the board goals. So
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, they worked really hard to come up with all of that. I think it should be part of it, in my opinion. I mean, we learned quite a bit from each one of them coming in and talking about what they wanted to improve on and their surveys and stuff. It was a very productive meeting. Exactly, and I think it should be part of it.
okay.
I'm only one of 9 though, so.
I agree. I
Yes,
agree.
anyone adamantly opposed, we can.
No.
And so I guess where we are now is, do you guys want to have some discussion times about board goals? Do you want to just suggest some goals and come together next time and see what's in common? How do you want to do that?
Well, in the past, haven't we sat down and gone through our book together and?
Well, we typically did that in the retreat,
Right.
and that's why we didn't last week. But the
So
retreat,
tired.
you know, right now will be a public session, so that's why, regardless of how we do this, we need to do it publicly. So we can have, you're probably not ready to have the discussion now, but maybe next time we meet at the work session, just come with ideas for board goals. And then we just talk about it then. So we'll have a discussion period at that time? Okay, and if you can't make it, just send those to either the chairman or myself, and we'll discuss them at that point.
Do we have some way to email the board goals to us from last time?
Mm-hmm. I can do that.
That'd be helpful.
Okay.
Anything else on that one?
There are, one other thing that I liked about, what I liked about the structure of the high reliability schools is they actually encourage you to build upon what the work you've done. And so they call these critical commitments. So we're still committed to a personalized learning structure, and you can see the personalized learning deals with a challenging, high-quality, viable core curriculum, effective instructional practices, multi-tiered system of supports, and defined informed culture. In other words, I don't want people to think, since this is a little different structure, that we're throwing out all the things we've done in the past, especially the good work. Those are critical commitments that we still have made. Strong administrative team, school board that focuses on the strategic plan, commits to policy governance, student effort, exposed to a challenging, viable curriculum, staff effort, high level of discipline and professionalism, conservative fiscal planning and budget implementation, creative innovation and autonomy encouraged within district framework, and staff development that is relevant, encourage collaboration and growth specific. So those are critical commitments that have not changed. What we worry about is how much do we put on the teachers' plates?
They've got a lot on their plate.
They do. So what do we truly focus on? And that's where this will go back to the building principles, and as a district team, we'll work on what is really important at each building.
But this is
And-
not putting additional stuff on their plate,
No.
right?
No, but if you look at we haven't removed anything either.
Right.
And so,
This looks like a framework for improvement.
It
is
is.
what it looks like. Something so we can track progress and
Right.
implement and improve areas.
Exactly, which is
So,
best practice, highly researched
we can say this year we're working on these
structure.
3 things.
Yeah. You guys will hear something over and over and over again. I can already tell you what you'll hear more than anything else from our principals is the idea of PLCs or professional learning communities. We have not gone down that road because people see that as a new program or a new, it's not. It's the idea that we make decisions collaboratively and we make them at point. What I mean by that is the first grade teachers at Aspen make their decisions for the first grade teachers at Aspen collaboratively. Now, there has to be a structure, so the first grade teachers at Aspen don't do something totally different than the first grade teachers at our other elementaries. But this idea of PLCs, our principals are ready to go. They want to start the direction of building assessments collaboratively. And I think people are going to think that this is the latest. It's not. It's something we've always encouraged collaboration. I don't know how many times you see collaboration in this document, but it is a structured situation where we seek information on point through collaboration and teaming. It's probably what professional learning PLCs mean. So you'll hear that a lot. That's what our principals really want to do. That will probably be, the district is coming up with this structure and this framework to see where we are and how we get better. The buildings see PLCs as the way to move their schools forward. Is that a fair way to assess that? The biggest work that we have to do, and we've always talked about this, is curriculum, finding a viable curriculum, and also assessments. Our principals now see that the way to do that is in these collaborative teams. So they'll want to move forward. The biggest thing with that is time. They need time to work collaborative. That's why I pushed for the delayed start, 32 opportunities instead of 9. That'll come back. If not, sometime this year, it'll definitely come back next year because our principals see the advantage in that. I believe our staff will too once it's better explained. And hopefully the community will understand that will improve instruction probably quicker than anything else we do. So.
Well, I think having our staff on board, find members is going to make that powerful for me.
But be ready for that. The PLCs, you'll hear that over and over and over again.
Support as long as we pick kids up at the same time and have something for them to do.
Well, we were going to do that. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sure I have something else.
Yes, so let's go ahead and move on to the fall roundup, which is August 29th.
I think I've sent this out several times now. This is in Green River, and I think I sent out the last email I sent out is, now I don't have it, when we're going to pick you up, where we're going to meet. So
4:30.
4:30 in front.
there you go. Great. Thank you.
4:30 here. 4:30 here.
4:30 here. We'll probably have it back by later, 9:30 probably. But I think a group of you went last year and felt it was well worth it. So
Yes.
supported by Wyoming school boards. It's working with the regional school boards too, so you can maybe hear what other issues other boards have too. So we encourage you to attend that.
What day is that?
August 29th.
It's
That's a Tuesday.
It's the day after school starts.
Yeah.
So I plan on going. Does anybody else
I'm
want
gonna
to
try my
commit?
best to go.
Kim, Kay, Jamie?
I think, at this point, unless my boss tells me otherwise.
I was gonna say, the only thing that will stop me is if I end up having work issues.
I could probably do it.
I just need.
And Dave?
I can put you on the manifest for this early, so.
Okay.
Jamie,
Okay.
Kim. And Dave said that he can go
There's room.
if there's room.
I don't want to take 2 vehicles. so.
We can take, well, George probably won't cut one of the new Suburbans loose, but we'll take one of the newer
Hey.
Suburbans.
If anybody gets a new bird, George, it's us.
Students, tell they're 100% paid for, only students use those. Yeah. So that's all I had with that, is just to get it. So did you
Okay.
get what you need?
So I have Cassie, Jamie, Kay, Kim, Dave, and Ryan.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so back to school activities.
Just to let you know, you're invited to any of these activities that you guys got on this list. Probably the one that I think is of importance, and I don't know if it's on your list, is on the 14th. is the trip to, the 14th is the, what did they call it? It's with the legislators. It's actually with the consultants that have been hired to solve our funding problem in the state. It's Monday on the 14th, and it's from 5 to 7.
14th of August?
Yes. So next Monday. We are taking a vehicle. All I'm saying is if you want to attend, you're welcome to. It's in Green River or Rock Springs. It's in Rock Springs. Yeah. Matt will be driving to that one, so, and I'll be attending, but you're just welcome to attend if you like. It will give you good information about what's happening financially. Just a quick, as I even mentioned last week, the opening is on Tuesday at 8. You're welcome to come. I'll introduce you. It's a short opening by me, and then the teachers break up and start doing work on their evaluation, but you're welcome to come at any time. Lunch is provided by our food service at the high school.
Tuesday, the 22nd.
The 22nd. What we did this year to accommodate the eclipse is usually Monday is a teacher work day in their rooms. We gave them the option. If they wanted to take Monday off, they could work Friday. Friday was always an open day for them. I'm just hoping that they all don't decide to go to Jackson and can't get back until Wednesday. But so
They won't get a room in Jackson.
you won't even get a roof on Jackson, I
What time
understand.
did you say you wanted us on the
22nd
22nd?
is 8. 8 a.m.
You'll email us all of that, right, Sherry? Thank you.
And you should have got, did you guys get the packet? You have a
Yes.
packet that has all of them.
Yeah.
You can see what we're doing with our staff. So just wanted to let you know you're welcome back for that. Welcome to participate. Right at, what, 11:30? When the sun goes black, Sherry will call you.
I thought you were gonna say Monday the teachers were gonna have a blackout.
So that's all I had, thanks.
Okay. So next item on our agenda is executive session. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
So moved?
I'll second that.
Second by Tammy. By Kim? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, and we will come back fairly shortly? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, let me make sure I didn't.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is like the biggest block in here for them.
Yeah, I've got time Tuesday, but we're doing an intro at 8, right? What's that?
He usually does the introductions and introduces everybody, and he has not told me what the exact schedule is for everybody. I don't know. Christine might know, because I think she's the one helping set it up. And then they have that high library school meeting here on the 17th. I think that's when that has, staff will be out here and exactly what we need. And me, remember I can blah, 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 blah. Age sucks, but the alternative sucks worse. When you want to get 6 feet under. I'll take my aches and pains. Was that fast?
It wasn't super fast.
No.
Quicker, but Ryan's always worried. I said that with love, Ryan, I said that with love.
Did Dave go to the bathroom?
Oh, you do have that thing if you wax your knee. This thing right here. Oh, this? I've hit my, no, he's got that one comes down. No, you're right. And I have heard a few people sitting over there go.
Okay. Is there a motion to reconvene into our regular session?
I second that.
Okay, so who first?
Jenny.
Jenny. And then Kim. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to our action items. Item A is personnel, and then we have resignations.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, we recommend that you approve the resignations as listed on the list and the waiver that was discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Who was the motion?
So Kim? Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Move on to contract approvals.
We have the second one, though, is the leave of absence. We recommend
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
you approve the leave of absence as listed on the personnel sheet.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the leave of absence? First by Jenny, second by Tammy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Madam Chair, the last item on the list is we recommend you approve the contracts of 3 individuals, Sarah Walk, Kimberly Trujillo, and Brett Smith. As I mentioned, and I apologize, the last 2, Kim and Brett, we got about 4:30, and so we didn't have a chance to put a contract in board docs for you. But the contracts, of course, are all the same. You'll see the amounts that they'll be hired at, and we recommend that you approve them. The reason for, I guess, such late notice is if we don't approve them now, we won't approve them until they've been working for 3 weeks. So we recommend that you approve the 3 that are listed.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the contracts for the listed individuals? Okay, moved by Kirby,
Second.
second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. On to our excess van and other miscellaneous items.
Madam Chair, members of the board, if you remember, last week I had a list, I just didn't know exactly what they were. So your opportunity now is to ask questions about the van and about the other miscellaneous items with those in the room. So we do recommend that you approve this excess though, but George is here to talk about it.
Hi, George.
Madam Chair, members of the board, what we have is the van that we ordered that isn't quite here yet, but should be hopefully by the time school starts. It will be replacing, the one we have now will be a spare for it after it arrives.
That's the food service?
The food service van. And then the one that we are using as a spare now will move to maintenance, and this is the one that they have that will declare excess and move on. Everything else is equipment that we either do not use or is not working. I haven't actually declared equipment excess before, but I'm taking it, we will put it in the paper and take bids on it as a lot. The only thing I'm hesitant with is the last item is a central transmission, transmission jack, and central transmission is code name for cheap Chinese junk. It has been, I personally, about 20 years ago, well, probably 15 years ago, welded some braces on the legs to keep them from collapsing. And I really don't want anybody using it.
No,
I would rather throw it away. It has virtually no value. Most of the rest of this doesn't either. Probably the only thing it does is that engine stand, which is really just too big and too much for anything the district uses.
Okay. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the excess van and other miscellaneous items?
So moved.
Second by Kirby. Any discussion or questions for George? Okay, none noted. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Okay, down to board roundtable. Does that mean that you have something to share, Kim?
No.
No.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to share, or?
Thankful for a short board meeting.
So I take, I take that as a no. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Except that Jeff is throwing things.